Salt belongs to and forms part of the origin of the earth. It is born with it and remains inside it, but it also emerges from its waters and its seas, whilst the winds and sun dry it and form it. It shows itself as white, multicolored in many forms, but mankind will always need it. The conservation and preservation of food is perhaps the best known use of salt up until the beginning of the 19th century. Hence, throughout history, it became a vital raw material, highly valuable and thus much sought after. Salt is very abundant in its liquid state, in the medium of its origin, the oceans. But it can also be found in its solid state, in the magnificent mountains which form the most remote mountain ranges on the planet Earth. In a simple geological summing up of the age of the Earth, we could say that this striking landscape was covered by the oceans 250 million years ago. The salt in the water was deposited in the substrata of mountain ranges like the Alps, which were raised during the formation of the oceans and continents. Neolithic men, probably following the animals that approached the saline wells, settled in this valley of Salzburg and discovered the extraordinary properties of salt. "7,000 years ago, mankind began to scrape the bowels of the earth with instruments made from deer antlers and stone axes to extract the precious mineral. The rock salt mines in these mountains are the theme of this thrilling and unique journey through the ages of human history in Central Europe. The Kingdom of Salt, 7,000 years of history in Hallstatt. Hallstatt is the name of this beautiful, peaceful, and small Austrian village. It is located on the shores of Lake Hallstatter See at the foot of the Alps. In Greek, aios means salt. The Celts called it Hall, and Hallstatt in German means the place of salt. Hallstatt was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1997. The importance that its archaeological sites have for Central European prehistory is demonstrated by the fact that the first or early Iron Age is known as the Hallstatt culture. It also deserves the prestigious Universal Declaration because, thanks to the archaeological excavations that have taken place in its prehistoric mines, it has been recognized as a unique phenomenon in the world. The conservation power of salt and its properties have allowed the discovery of objects and organic elements preserved in perfect condition, such as furs, woods, ropes, and even food scraps, about 3,500 years old. In the so-called Bronze Age, In the 15th century BC, a new era begins. A new metal, bronze, and a new technology, metallurgy, revolutionize society. Salt is scarce in Central Europe and is the object of a strong demand and a profitable trade, and it becomes known as white gold. Mankind, already settled in these mountains, begins to develop underground mining and operates 3 mine shafts over 100 meters deep. Tools made of wood and bronze pickaxes strike the salt veins, breaking them into small pieces that are hauled in sacks up the steps to the mouth of the mine. Here, the pieces of salt are hoisted to the surface in containers tied by thick, hard-wearing ropes. The mining waste was deposited on the floor of the gallery. In their study, the archaeologists gather data on life inside the Bronze Age mine. The excavations bring to light extraordinary, perfectly preserved objects, such as this shoe, and this hat made from natural hair which probably belonged to a child. Also found were 5 sacks for carrying the salt that show us a perfection in the mineral extraction technique and a maximum efficiency at work. As is demonstrated by the design of this bag, which was used to carry the pieces of salt. It can hold up to 30 kilos and has a strap which is adjustable to body size. A mechanism which allows it to be emptied with a single movement of the hand without taking it off suggests that it was used without interruption for a very long and hard-working day. It is made of cowhide with a reinforced edge and leather straps, and has 2 wooden side pieces that act as a vertical support. It is 3,500 years old and was discovered by archaeologists in 1985. Another object found in the post-2003 excavations and amazingly preserved is a wooden staircase, which it is believed is the oldest in Europe. It shows an amazing technology for the time. The staircase was detachable, modular, extendable, and adjustable to the mine floor, and allowed safe passage for the people carrying the bags of salt. It is 3,350 years old. A landslide ended up destroying and burying the Bronze Age mines. 400 years later, other mines reappear in a mountain close to the upper valley with a different design. The mining galleries extended horizontally, following the course of the veins of salt, and reaching huge dimensions up to 200 meters in length. Men, women, and children toil in the mines, which are equipped with lighting and ventilation systems, and they cook their own food inside the mine. It is the 9th century BC, and the early Iron Age is born. The method that was used in the Bronze Age to remove pieces of small grain salt was replaced by a technique that allowed large tablets of salt to be extracted. Deep grooves were cut, and they were separated into halves from the center. Its heart-shaped tablets of salt allow us to identify them immediately. They are distinctive, and mean that Hallstatt could maintain its supremacy in the white gold business. It becomes, therefore, an emporium of luxury and wealth, where a social elite controls its extraction and distribution. Just as in the Bronze Age, a natural disaster, in around the mid-4th century BC, brought about the collapse of the upper part of the mountain and destroyed the Iron Age mines. In the 1st century AD, the Romans settled on the shores of the lake, but there is no evidence of the exploitation of the mines, although it is possible that they acted as administrators of the salt business. The excavations brought to light remains of houses, paintings, ceramics, and glass vessels. These remains in a small cemetery are the evidence left to us of the presence of the Romans in Hallstatt.
Hallstatt ist ein einmaliger Fundplatz. Wir haben ein einmaliges Gräberfeld, das einer ganzen Kulturepoche in Europa den Namen gegeben hat, die Hallstatt-Kultur. Aber wir haben auch ein wunderbares einmaliges Bergwerk, das älteste Salzbergwerk der Welt. Also der Fragenkomplex zur Hallstatt ist sehr groß. Wir wissen von den verschiedenen Epochen immer nur Teile. Wir haben zum Beispiel das Gräberfeld und das Bergwerk aus der Eisenzeit. Aus der Bronzezeit kennen wir aber nur das Bergwerk, aber kein Gräberfeld. Oder wo sind die Siedlungen?
The first existing document that records trading rights for Hallstatt salt dates from 1311 and is signed by Queen Isabella, wife of Edward II of England. There are also records of archaeological discoveries from the Middle Ages. In 1734, mine workers found the body of a man who probably belonged to the Bronze Age, which had been perfectly mummified by the salt. They buried him in the town cemetery, thereby preventing analysis of the remains. In the middle of the 19th century, thanks to the work of Johann Georg Ramshauer, then the Burgmeister, or the Hallstatt salt mine manager, archaeological exploration begins at the Prehistoric Cemetery located in this valley. Between 1846 and 1863, Ramshauer excavated 980 tombs. All meticulously documented before and after being excavated, with detailed descriptions and drawings in watercolor. This map of the necropolis remains today a work of incalculable value for the study of the site. The graves were for burial, with the body resting on its back, with the arms and legs outstretched, or for cremation, a ritual reserved for the most important social groups. The exceptional grave goods of some of the tombs excavated by Ramsauer soon bestowed fame upon its excavator and upon the cemetery of Hallstatt. The archaeology demonstrated the existence of distant contacts due to the trade in salt. The beautiful objects found are proof of this. Swords with ivory hilts, glass vessels from Slovenia, high-quality gold and silver objects, or necklaces and bracelets made with Baltic amber. In the tombs of the warriors, the first bronze and iron swords and knives appear, which were an addition to their armaments, together with other offerings. Other investigators followed Johann Ramsauer, excavated the cemetery, and gave rise to a quantum leap in the study of the archaeological discoveries. But the person who made a contribution that would mark the future and secure the recognition of Hallstatt is the first director of the Natural History Museum. Ferdinand von Hochstetter understood the importance of the site, continued the excavations, and moved the grave goods of the 27 unearthed tombs to the Imperial and Royal Museum of Vienna. Vienna, one of the most beautiful cities of the old continent, and capital of the former Austro-Hungarian Empire. The birthplace of Mozart, Beethoven, and Strauss. Elegance and culture flow through the Danube. Showing off imperial palaces like the Schönbrunn, the summer residence of the imperial family. The Belvedere Palace, or the overall architectural impression of the Hofburg Palace. Which houses the country estate of the Empress Sissi and the National Library within its walls. The Grand Boulevard of the Ringstrasse invites you to let go and to contemplate its emblematic buildings, such as the Vienna Opera, inaugurated in 1869 with a performance of a work by Mozart. The Town Hall of the city. Or the seat of the Austrian Parliament, which was designed to evoke memories of ancient Greece. The classic architecture of Vienna contrasts with the modern and revolutionary design of buildings such as this residential complex, built in 1986 and which forms part of the Austrian cultural heritage. In the Ringstrasse, one can also find museums like the History of Art, the Albertina, or the Natural History Museum. The Natural History Museum of Vienna was opened in 1889 by Emperor Franz Joseph I of Austria, adequately to accommodate the formidable collections of the Habsburgs. And make them accessible to the general public. It is one of the most important museums in Europe. Its collections, composed of some 25 million specimens and objects, are the foundation of the work of a team made up of more than 60 scientists. The Prehistory Department of the Natural History Museum possesses one of the largest collections of that specialty, including pieces like the outstanding, universally admired Paleolithic sculpture known as Venus of Willendorf. The object, made from limestone and measuring 11 centimeters in height, was discovered in 1908 in Willendorf, a small town next to the Danube. It is 25,000 years old and remains an enigma for the experts. Since 1960, the Department of Prehistory has been giving a gigantic boost to multidisciplinary research in Hallstatt. Specialists in botany, geology, zoology, and parasitology cross over and combine their research with mining engineers and experts in textiles, ceramics, and woodwork.
Die Forschungsarbeit in Hallstatt ist sehr komplex, wo mit Archäologie alleine nicht genug Information gewonnen werden kann. So arbeiten wir mit vielen naturwissenschaftlichen Disziplinen zusammen, sei es jetzt von der technischen Seite, Anthropologie oder naturwissenschaftlichen Seite, um eben den Alltag, das Leben in der Urzeit besser erkennen zu können. In den letzten Jahren haben wir eine verstärkte Zusammenarbeit mit der Universität für Bodenkultur, vor allem im Bereich der Holzuntersuchungen, welche Holzarten im Bergwerk verwendet worden ist, wie alt es ist und vor allem ganz neu ist ein Isotopenprojekt. Ein anderes Projekt hat sich mit den Farben in den alten Textilien beschäftigt, das sogenannte Hallstatt-Farbenprojekt, mit einer Zusammenarbeit mit der Universität für angewandte Kunst.
Archaeologists are aware that projects and research work have to be undertaken without pause, because the environment in Hallstatt is under threat, as Professor Kern stresses.
Das prähistorische Bergwerk ist in seinem Bestand doch gefährdet und so ist jede Ausgrabung auch eine Art Notgrabung. Es sind auch hier die Kräfte der Natur, der Bergdruck, der die einzigartigen prähistorischen Fundstellen im Berg in naher Zukunft zerstören kann.
The conservation and research must continue in order to unravel the origins of the world and the life and death of the men and women who shaped prehistoric culture in Central Europe. The Hallstatt culture. The kingdom of salt.